Matt, we were just having a conversation before you came on about um, the starting two guard spot and the way that, and nothing, I'm not talking about anybody or anything like that, but I'm just, I look around and I see people's opinions knocked on Kings Beat, James Ham, Matt George, Sean Cunningham. It seems like everybody's in agreement that Kevin Herter is going to be the starting two guard. And I guess the question is, should that be more of a camp battle? Is that something that should be looked at as a little bit more of an open competition between Malik Monk and Kevin Herter? I think it should be. I can understand why. I can understand the argument for both guys starting, but I don't think it should be as much of a foregone conclusion as it seems like it's being reported as.
Yeah, Kenny, I understand what you're saying. I've tried to take the approach of my belief is that Kevin Herter makes the most sense as the starting two, but I haven't heard any one way or another whether the Kings are leaning one particular way or not. I think it's wide open, to be honest with you. I think the competition is wide open, but I do think like the only thing we've had to go off of, we have seen no scrimmages, we've seen no practices. The only thing we have to go off of based off of lineups is what colored jersey guys are wearing, right? And for the most part, De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Herter, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes have all worn the same color, and Malik Monk has typically worn the opposite color. So if you want to read into that as those are lineups, you can. We have no idea. We have not seen any kind of practice, and we're going to go into probably the preseason game the same way as everybody else is going. Okay, what kind of lineup is he going to throw out there? But I think Kevin Herter makes the most sense for in two areas. One, he's a little bit bigger than Malik Monk is, number one, and number two, I think I trust Kevin Herter more as a defender, or he's, because of his size, can be more of a versatile defender as a starter, which I think matters to Mike Brown more than Malik Monk. And another thing is an argument that actually is against Malik Monk, but it's also a compliment to Malik Monk is I think Malik is a better microwave scorer than Kevin Herter is or can be. So I think that's why it makes more sense for Malik to be a sixth or seventh man coming off the bench, where his role is come in and get buckets, especially if he's playing alongside Davion Mitchell or De'Aaron Fox. I see the way he plays being the exact same, whereas I look at Kevin Herter as more of a Swiss Army knife, where he can move to the three if you want to go small. He can defend threes. He can defend twos. We know he can space the floor. He can also put the ball on the floor. Malik Monk can put the ball on the floor too. But that's the way I look at it.
We get our first taste of preseason action on Monday. It's just a couple of days away. Do you think that lineup that we see Monday, the starting lineup, do you think that's where Mike's leaning for the opener against Portland?
I think so, unless there's like a real out of left field decision in the starting lineup, which I don't know what that would be that would make really any sense. There's only 4 preseason games, and you have such limited time to get prepared and get these guys the time together, that especially if the Kings want to hit the ground running and start the season strong, which I believe is a focal point and should be a focal point for this team. So I think the starting lineup of preseason could be subject to change, but I believe it'll be what the expectation is on opening night. I don't think Mike Brown would go, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's probably not what I'll do, but I'm just going to throw this out there and see if it works. But he might put a starting lineup out there. Let's say he decides to go with Trey Lyles over Keegan Murray. Let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to go with the experience over the rookie. And let's say Keegan comes in off the bench and plays some minutes with Fox and Sabonis and absolutely kills it. Okay, now maybe I'm willing to switch it a little more. I think that's possible. But I think the starting 5 that take the floor on Monday night are, at this point in time, the starting 5 that Brown believes he's going to bring into the Portland game on the 17th.
What kind of rotation you think he's going to have? Is it going to be a real tight one where, it's 7-8 guys, or could it possibly have 9-10 guys in that nightly rotation? How do you think Mike Brown is going to play that?
I think it's 8 guaranteed, but probably 9. I think it's a 9-man rotation with some combination of Fox, Herter, Barnes, Murray, and Sabonis is my 5, with Mitchell, Monk, Holmes, and probably that last spot I think is going to be Trey Lyles' spot coming off the bench. That's just I have no idea. I haven't seen a whiteboard or anything like that. That's just how I would build my rotations if I were Mike Brown at this point in time. to be determined based off of what happens in camp. But I think it's going to be more than likely a 9-man rotation, absolutely 8. I don't see how it could possibly be 7 with the depth on this team, and maybe 10 at times, depending upon fouls or matchups.
Our man TD not getting any run, is he?
Yeah, he's in a really tough spot. And I think, and I had a conversation with Brendan Nunez about this when I was doing my training camp previews or training camp battles series. I did a training camp battle between Kent Bazemore and Terence Davis. And the reason why I did those two is because I think Terence Davis's best chance at a consistent rotational spot is as a backup wing, not as a backup 2. Like, I just don't know how he gets, unless like Kevin Huerter almost solidifies himself as a 3 and Harrison Barnes somehow makes a slide to the 4, which none of us are really a consistent fan of. I don't see how Terence Davis gets time as a 2, but he's staying ready. He's working hard. I actually really like some of the things that he said on media day when we talked to him. I asked him about consistency, and he gave a really long thought out answer where he shared that he's still trying to get better with consistency, but he says he has gotten a lot better consistently from where he was at training camp last season. And he brought up like the numbers that he was putting up. He said that he thinks he's the only guard in the league, and I haven't confirmed this, but he said he was the only guard in the league who was averaging double-digit points with the minutes that he was playing. He was playing the fewest minutes and still averaging double-digit points. So he believes in himself, and I do think he could be valuable for the Sacramento Kings. But Huerter's above him, Monk's above him, and even time with De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell sharing the floor is above him at this point in time. I don't know where Terence Davis gets in consistently as a 2.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I do. And I think there is a role for him. Like, I think that he's going to have a 10-man rotation because of the depth, or at least he's going to try that first. Like, I could see him trying 10 to start. And then if it's not going well, you pull back and you shorten the rotation.
So let me ask you, I'm sorry, can you interrupt? Yeah. I just want to ask you, because I was thinking about this too, and I want to get your thought on it. If it is 10, is it Bazemore or is it Davis? Because you're talking about the 10th guy is the backup 3.
For me, it's Davis. And I go small with the second unit, and it's Mitchell, Monk, and Davis Davis playing essentially the 3, but it's more of a 3-guard lineup. That's how I'd go about it. Because I don't know, man. I just think Terence Davis, I would want to see him get an opportunity with this group and see what he can bring to the table. I think he's a heck of a ball player. I think he can play on both sides of the ball and be very beneficial to what you're trying to do. And I'd have to find a way to, I got to find a way to get him in the rotation. But early on, everybody trying to figure things out, trying to get used to the season, I'd have a 10-man rotation, and he'd be part of that second unit.
I think if Terence Davis continues to approach this season like he is a microwave scorer role, even if that's valuable, I don't think he cracks the rotation. I think if he brings the attention to detail defensively, if he shows he can handle defensive assignments on the wing, guarding 3s, and look, we don't expect him to lock anybody down. He'll be playing mostly against the second unit. If he can stay in front of guys and fit into the team defensive system that Mike Brown is trying to establish, I think that's his best way to crack the rotation. That's also, like I said, why I give almost a slight edge to Kevin Huerter over Malik Monk, because I think he will theoretically fit better with the Kings team defensive system. That's why I think so many of these spots are wide open, because it's not just going to be about how many points you can put up. It's going to be about how many points can you also take down on the other end of the floor.
And I hope his instincts are right, his being Mike Brown. So I hope his instincts about what this rotation should be is right, because I don't want to see a lot of shuffling. Shuffling probably means something went wrong. Shuffling probably means we got to figure something out. Now, there are other, components to it: injuries, foul trouble, sickness. There's a variety of reasons which someone could be, in a rotation for a 5-6 day period. But overall, man, you hope he nails this on the first go around, and it's not a regular shuffle where, someone played 15 minutes one night and then got a DNP for the next 4 games.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about that, because just looking at this roster, there are 8 guys that have to play. Like, to me, I look at, there are a solidified 8 that have to play. Trey Lyles is my 9th, but there's the obvious starting 5, and then or not obvious starting 5, but there's the 5 starters that we believe, and then there's Mitchell, Monk, and Rashawn. Like to me, those 8 have to play, barring any kind of injury or any kind of situation. Like they have to be on the floor. Now, where I could be concerned about shuffles maybe is, okay, Monk, you're starting this night, but this night Kevin Huerter's actually going to start because the 2 guard you're facing Bradley Beal. Like I don't think that's going to happen. I think Mike Brown is going to, like, if you have to change for matchup purposes, you start Kevin Huerter at the same time, but maybe the 2 guard that he's defending isn't as much of a weapon that you're not as concerned about. So, okay, I'm bringing in Malik Monk earlier than I normally would and leaning on him a bit heavier. And this is all starting lineups, right? My big question is, what the hell is the closing lineup going to look like for this team? Because I think Davion Mitchell probably should be on the floor defensively, especially if the Kings are trying to come back. I've asked Davion about not just backing up Fox, but playing alongside Fox, and he shared that both he and Fox have been working on their play off the ball. And I know Luke has helped both of them with that, at how to move off the ball, catch and shoot, obviously spacing the floor for each other. So, I mean, I think Davion Mitchell has a major case for being on the floor. Malik Monk, if you need to score points in a hurry, if you're down by 3, Malik Monk needs to be on the floor. Kevin Huerter probably needs to be there too. Harrison Barnes needs to be there. Domantas Sabonis needs to be there. Like, he's got a really, he being Mike Brown, has a really difficult, but I think fun problem to solve here in training camp.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, you closing lineup, you're thinking it's Sabonis, Keegan. The wild card is Harrison Barnes.
I think the closing lineup is more situational than the starting lineup.
Are you behind or are you ahead?
But I'm just looking at these. These are probably your 5 best players. Like, and you're looking at Sabonis, Keegan. Harrison is probably the situational one, because depending on what's going on in that game and who you're playing with, my first thought would be Huerter, Monk, and Fox. And
you're leaving Davion on the bench in a close game.
I think we're going to get the answer to that question.
Harrison and Davion depend on the matchups.
I think the Davion question, I think we're going to get an answer to really, really quickly, because we know defensively what his identity is. We know what off night is going to bring defensively on a nightly basis, right? But is the version of Davion Mitchell that we saw at the end of last season offensively, is that a version that can only happen with or without De'Aaron, or can he still be that aggressive and successful offensively playing next to Fox? If he can, I think he absolutely has to be on the floor closing games. He's just way too valuable as a defender.
Yeah, he is, but at the same time, a lot of this stuff, like we see how the game is played, there's a lot of switching and pick and rolling anyway. That's all they do with Davion anyway. If he's guarding, say late game, he's guarding Steph Curry, they're just gonna run pick and roll. They're gonna get him off of Steph anyway. So do you want to have because the question is not going to be the other guys around him. Or do you want Harrison? Do you think Harrison is a better defender than Keegan, or Harrison better than Huerter? So when they do switch on that pick and roll, that you have a guy that's capable of staying with the Dame Lillards, the Steph Currys, and all these other guards out here, that is going to be switched off. Because it's unfortunate, because Davion is a joy to watch on the defensive end. No, we saw that after the first week or so. They were getting him out of the way. They would never leave whoever Davion was guarding one-on-one to go against Davion Mitchell.
But at the same time, too, Luke Walton's defensive scheme was rotate as hard as possible and stay in front of guys for 2 dribbles. Like, that wasn't a team defense. That was a scramble. Like, that's all the Sacramento Kings did defensively, especially in close games, was they scrambled and they tried to ISO defend. And if somebody got beat, then everybody else had to figure out, do I leave my man and help, or do I let the guy get to the basket untouched? So I think Mike Brown, hopefully, dear God, brings some kind of team defensive system to where, okay, if let's talk about the Warriors, right? If Davion is guarding Steph and you switch Davion off of Steph, then De'Aaron steps into that spot and says, all right, you're not getting by me either. Like that, I think that's the way Mike Brown has to look at that backcourt. Is Fox is going to be just as pesky, especially in close games. Fox is going to be just as pesky and difficult to get around as Davion Mitchell is. So go ahead and switch him. Like, we can handle that. I think that's what Mike Brown's going to want to try and get to. And then I think you're selling Harrison Barnes short a little bit too, because I think I know last year wasn't the best indication for anybody, not just Harrison, but defensively Harrison was really, really bad last year statistically. But so much of winning close games and closing out close games is experience. And Harrison has a ton of experience and composure that I believe is going to be valuable for Mike Brown to lean on, if nothing else too. So I think it's a coin flip at this point between Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray. And yes, Matt George, the Keegan Murray stan of all stands over here, is going to say I might honestly lean towards Barnes over Keegan in most looks at the end of the game if it means Davion Mitchell being on the floor.
Yeah. So Matt, working 1 through 5 here: Fox, Mitchell, Herter, Barnes, Sabonis.
Probably.
I'm good with it. Like I'm fine with it. It puts Barnes. It puts Barnes at the 4. You've got Kevin Herter out there.
But if I'm down 6 with like a minute 20 to go, it's Fox, Monk, Herter, and then maybe Murray and Sabonis, or maybe it's Barnes and Murray, with Murray playing the 5. Like if I need 3-pointers, if I need scoring, that's why it's so situational. But if the Kings if it's tied with a minute remaining or a minute 30, 2 minutes, 3 minutes remaining, I wouldn't be surprised if it's that lineup that you said: Fox, Mitchell, Herter, Barnes, and Sabonis.
Oh. You're kicked out of the Keegan Murray fan club.
What a fun problem to have, though.
You're
Isn't this fun to be able to talk about this and not like, okay, it's going to be Fox and a couple of guys and Mo Harkless and the rest of the bench enjoy watching? Like, it's fun. It's a fun problem to have.